This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about why blind faith and wishful thinking is a problem. Blind faith and wishful thinking is not is something is something that we all experience. It's not just that's a that should be we should start there to recognize that thinking and blind faith do not happen only with others, so that we need to pay attention to it. Ideas have consequences. That is that's the reality of the human condition. The reality of the human condition is that we, in a living organism, we have a synthesis, or we live a synthesis of past, present, and future, which means that we live. We know, we are aware that we live now and here, but at the same time, we live in different dimensions of time and space, of historical time and historical space. Our perception of ourselves and about the world, and how we relate to each other and with the world, can be affected by manuscripts or recorded history, recorded culture, that has been written or recorded in whatever is the means used, from 1,000 years ago. That means it's not valuable. That the messages that have been written so long ago, they are not important. Yes, but again, ideas have consequences, and it doesn't matter what we believe is right or wrong. It's just because it has an effect and it has consequences in how we live, how we treat each other, how we perceive everything. So it has our behavior, the way we think and analyze reality, the way we adapt to the norms, the norms and rules and principles and values that are presented to us through education and through the social experience, they matter, because everything matters. We do not exercise choice, freedom of choice, and decision. The process of decision making is not. It might seem, we might have the illusion, okay? We might have that that is a personal, private, individual process, but it is not. And the reason why it is not, is because inside us, in our cognitive and affective memories, there a collective. It's not what exists inside us is not it is an individual identity, because we can recognize who we are, we can recognize us as individuals, but socio-culturally speaking, we are a collective, which means that the ideas, the rules, the norms, the values, the principles that we believe they are ours, they actually are not. They are not ours, not in the sense that we are not able to consciously recognize them good or bad, or there is a reason why we identify ourselves with them and we follow them. But the fact is that those principles, values, norms came to us through narratives, through the process of repetition. And by repetition, I also mean that is the omnipresence in our social cultural environment, in our family, in our houses, in our community, in our culture, in our traditions, in our costume, in everything. So it is the difference between old days and modern days is that we now have a more complex identity, because we live kind of every day in a multicultural world, because we live we live locally, but we process information and narratives that are global, that have much more, that are more inclusive. Let's use this word. So it's the difference between now and the past. The past, people would be more involved with their own problems, of their local problems, national problems, or regional problems, but not like today, that we at the same time we live our problems and we have to bear problems that are occurring in other parts of the world. But other than that, is the same thing. We need to understand that the ideology of individualism, the power of the individual, which I know there is a lot of power in individuals, but there's a different power, and that power is material, is economic, is financial. It's power. It's the power to control, to have access, which is not exactly the same thing as the power of the individual to decide only upon his knowledge, as if the knowledge is something produced by us, which everybody knows that it is not. We are just a drop on the ocean. That's what it is. That's what we are. We have conscious will, so therefore we know what we do, and we know why we do it, and for what purpose. And there is a purpose. That is true, of course, but it is not, again, we cannot extract it from the circumstances. What we are, it's always the result of the interaction between us, or our experience in real circumstances. There is no, we cannot omit that we exist. We cannot analyze a person, an individual behavior, and whatever he does with his life without analyzing the circumstances, which is not easy, because the circumstances are an experience. The experience is individual and personal. Okay, when we experience, and that's why we have unique personalities and unique characters, because we, of course, we go through the experiences as a single entity, but there is a collective experience, which means that when we interact with others, when we interact with the reality of ideas, of other people's experiences, knowledge, everything, in every circumstance, we are experiencing it ourselves, but the process, the reality is not an individual reality. What I'm trying to say is that we cannot if we do not understand that every experience, every decision, every choice is a social and cultural and political and ideological choice. It is based on it can be even based, as I said, not in the present, but includes the present, past, and future, because we operate like that. And present and past and future is always about an analysis, to use contexts that are not ours, are part of the collective. So we have the will, the free will, if you, which might not be as free as we imagine, but we have the free will to consciously weight the pros and cons, to do the math, let's put it this way, in order to arrive to which when we analyze it also includes feelings and emotions. Because when people think about reasoning, we believe that reasoning does not include, as if when we are reasoning, does not include emotions and feelings, because as if when we are reasoning, the body stops feeling and stops the emotional processes. As if that we have the ability to stop it, to stop this process, that's part of our living system. As if we can stop hearing or if we have our eyes open, we can stop seeing, or whatever it is, you know. It doesn't work like that. We need to understand that while we are reasoning, supposedly rationally, as we sometimes think that this rational division, this thing, this is rational, this is irrational. It doesn't work like that. And much less when we are thinking about choices and decisions. There is a lot of it doesn't mean that we need to emote, to have strong feelings and strong emotions, but they are there. They are there because they are part. That's what they give. They are the qualifiers of our cognitive processes. To give the quality, you know. So, why blind faith and wishful thinking is a problem? I think it is obvious. It is a problem because it's not just, and that's the point. It's not I mean, because if we understand everything, and it's my right to believe what I want, it's my right. Our rights need to be. We must not confuse rights with entitlements and privileges, okay? Because that's a lot of difference. And many of us, I believe, I mean, we all. My point is that we all have at some point in our lives, or we are affected by these confusions. It's not because some of us are exempt of it. It's because it's not the case. It's just because we need to have a process that we need to train ourselves in order to have a creative self-criticism that allows us to overcome many prejudices. I mean, to go from negative or pernicious prejudices to positive prejudices, because prejudices will always exist. We cannot just get rid of them. What we can do is to train ourselves in order to become more, to adopt to adopt more creative and constructive prejudices that help us to become dominant and make us better persons, because they affect our behavior. They affect how we understand and perceive the reality. So that's the first point. Rights are important, but rights are relational. I emphasize this point because we need to understand life, because what we are is living beings that are in as a process. That's what is our lives, and we need to understand knowledge, experiences, choices, decisions, and whatever we believe it's true, as we need to understand it as related, in a relation with something else. Because it's not just a choice. It's not a choice like, that we go to the supermarket and instead of instead of picking tomato, and sometimes we don't even know why we do it, but then nevertheless, instead of picking tomatoes, we pick cucumber or other vegetables. So we do not. No, in this in the world of ideas and belief systems and value systems, it is very important that we understand the relation with reality, the relation with life processes, the living systems and the earth systems, because we live in this reality and we can use ideas, or there are always opportunists, okay? There are always people that they can consciously, because they have the so-called free will to do it, try to use arguments, ideas, concepts, and build narratives in order to influence us, in order to make us believe that we should follow them for some reason, because they have this power or that power or whatever it is. And that is a very dangerous path, and it is very easily, we can easily debunk it. But nevertheless, we develop a cognitive pattern of putting blind faith in narratives that might seem logical or meaningful or explain some of our experiences or give context to some of our experiences, and then we accept them as truth, as true, and we do not even feel the need to have to be a little skeptical, because if we trust the source, for example, or if we just identify ourselves because it reinforces our whatever it is we feel or think, we transform it in our code, in a code for our life. It becomes codified in our cognitive affective systems, where it becomes part of the subconscious mind, and of course it influences our behavior and our relations and what we stand for, politically speaking, because we are political animals. Therefore we are social animals, and social animals need to be political animals. They need to make decisions collectively to define the rules, the norms, the values, the principles that are the basis and the structure of a culture and a society, for a nation, for a group of people. That's how the human condition and nature works. So that's why it is very important. We do not. There is not this what seems to be just a private, personal, individual choice. It actually has, because this mentality that we live in democratic societies because each one of us has the right to vote, and then because we are supposed to be rational beings and make rational choices, we have the responsibility. So whatever we do, it's part of the individual responsibility as a choice, okay, as consumers or as voters or as anything else, because that's how it works. Instead of understanding ourselves as social beings, as part of a society that affects and is affected by whatever, by it, I mean, it's not only a one-way system. Unfortunately, there are too much power in the hands of too few people and too few organizations that have that control the means to make society be managed as almost a one way. It's just top down and that's it. So the feedback is in many ways irrelevant. Wishful thinking is part of our creative imagination, so it's again not something that we cannot get rid of it, and there is no problem in that. So we just need to be conscious that it is what it is, wishful thinking, and we cannot allow it to run our lives, because then we become easily easy prey for opportunists and manipulators. In a society where opportunity is synonymous of opportunism, because we don't seem to understand that opportunism should not be glorified, but actually, what is business? What is business? It's just to try to be to find opportunities, okay? But in the reality, is to be an opportunist, and usually by knowing what others do not know in order to take advantage of others. So in our society, and that's again important, because that's what we believe, I mean, or we just accept that what we need to do is to adapt, is to comply with the reality we have, because it is useless to fight it, and because we have and we are very cynical and very hypocritical about the human condition, or the nature of the human condition, and we take it for granted that the problem is us, which means that we are inherently evil, or even worse, that we believe that we can be hijacked by the devil or by devil forces, and therefore it's not even our responsibility, because that there is these forces or energies or entities that that exercise, that can colonize us and can use us for evil purposes, and that we don't even. So what that means, that it's not even our responsibility, and then we create these wars between good and evil, that of course they have a purpose. They have, besides the moral purpose, they have a political purpose. That's and the social purpose. That's why we cannot read theological texts or theological texts without understanding their political and social objectives. If you just understand them as the word of God, and then we just the if we just put our blind faith in the narratives for their face value, without understanding the metaphors, without understanding the manipulation, but we just believe that's the word of God, that's a word from an entity, an authority that is beyond, that cannot be criticized, that the wisdom is beyond our understanding. So we cannot do anything but just have blind faith. And there are many cases in so many millions of people that have. I'm not against religion. I just like any wishful thinking. We cannot get rid of it. That's why it's a mistake if we want to eradicate. There are many. Why? Because if you think about the new atheism, or the techno-scientism, it's a religions too, and they claim to be secular, but because they are religious, because they have claims, and they also are based in wishful thinking. They try to sell us a sort of a claim of rational absolutism, but there is such thing doesn't exist. It might exist some laws of physics or some laws of nature that they are plain and clear, okay? But the rest, the narratives we use, they are not rational. They are narratives. Language by itself is a process of framing reality. It's not a process. It's not. It is logical. It has, and that's why we need to not think that we can override. I mean, we can override that. We can eradicate blind faith or wishful thinking. That's not what I'm talking about, because I think it's impossible to do it, because it's part of our nature, it's part of the human condition, it's part of the creative imagination. So you need to imagine. That's the imaginative process is exactly that. We think about, we use whatever we already know, and we add something else. We have this creative process, and wishful thinking is part of it. What we need to do, and that's what we do not have, is a different understanding of society, of that's what we need to rewrite. We need to change in order to humanize. Is the political economy, is the class or caste societal system based? Okay. That is what we need to really question. Is exactly the reality, the social and cultural and the political and technological reality that makes us believe that changes us in ways that we do not even understand. I mean, it changes the way we behave and the way we understand ours. It doesn't mean even through science, but there is a lot of BS in science, in so much scientific knowledge, that we need to understand that there is a problem. There is a problem in the way we organize our societies and economies and in our civilization. And I'm talking about, again and again, the global civilization as it exists now, which is a commodified civilization, imperialist, because it's based on economic growth, in perpetual growth, which requires, because it's based on debt, there is the new debt to be created, or to create new money. There is the need for new debt, because we have a debt-based money creation society or banking system. It's no problem with that. It's just it's because of the interest, the compound interest. That's why we need to grow. That's the reason. We need to understand society through the lenses of development, economic development, for ecological and social justice. Okay? Justice and truth. That's what we need. So this is why blind faith in an economic system, because that's what we have. Blind faith is not only about religion, and wishful thinking is not only about religion. It is about economic systems, political systems. It's about it's about an imperialist civilization that is dehumanizing us, that is destroying the planet, because we live under a dictatorship of the worst people. Not because, and I'm not talking about politicians, I am talking about oligarchs and plutocrats, because this society is not the opportunities of our societies are mainly designed to be taken, to be hijacked by opportunists, unscrupulous opportunists that do not care about the fate of people, do not care about the fate of the planet, do not care about they only care about the bottom line. They care about creating monopolies. They care about absolute control and absolute power. They can talk a lot about democracy and about freedom. They can be liberals, okay? They can be even in some or liberal progressives, or they can be right-wing nationalists, or even fascists and right-wing populists. Those who are driven, those who seek power positions and control, they do not care about democracy. They use democracy. They are okay with the type of democracy we have, which is managed democracy. It's not even representative. It's managed by the wealthy, by the powerful. They have several circles, walls around it, and they or several layers, and we are just in the outer layer. We do not have a free pass. We are not allowed to go inside the walls of power. That's what it is. So for those that think that blind faith and wishful thinking is just a personal choice, and we do not need to understand it, or we do not need to have an analysis and try to train ourselves to be more critical and to think that, again, we are the ones that we are always waiting for, which means that we need to, it is imperative that we create a culture where we feel not only the need, but the necessity. I mean, we feel the need, okay? We feel the need to have political agency and economic agency and social and cultural agency. Not only to have people representing us, because the truth is they do not represent us. It is just perception management again. It's just about manipulation. And every 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, we just have the circus, We just have another election. We go through the same process, and nothing changes. I mean, it seems the change is only from bad to worse. That's what I think many of us feel in domestic policies and in geopolitics moves, and we just engage in tribalization, in polarization, and instead and wishful thinking, again wishful thinking and blind faith, instead of doing what we need to do. Look to understand the root cases of the problems. Where do they come from? That's what we need, and then we need to find solutions to really eradicate the problem. We cannot only think that, okay, we can have some reforms and then it will change over time. Yes, it will change for worse. It won't change, because power concedes nothing without a demand. Frederick Douglass. Okay? So, these monologues, or whatever you want to call it, is this is not about teaching anybody. This is a work in progress. This is reflections and insights. I do not pretend to teach anything, but I want and I believe that we all are part of the process of defining, of identifying the root causes, and also create the grassroots movements and organizations, and focused in unifying people, not focused in dividing people in schools of thought or theories, or that basically serve the interests of the powerful. They are the only ones that we need to get rid of intellectual superiority. I do not, maybe another word would be better. No, not authorities. We just all need, because it's a shared process, and that's need to be like that, and that's why we need to create a civilization and a culture and a society that understands that everything about us is relational. I know it's hard. We live in the age of deception, of globalized deception, ubiquitous deception. So it's not easy. What we need to understand is that it's why there is the need for deception. Usually honest people say that they don't fear, they don't need to hide anything, because they are honest. And it's true. So why does the powerful need to they tell us all the time that there is the need for secrecy? Because they need to manage us. through deception. We need this discussion because we are at an inflection point in history, and it is the time for a deep analysis of the reality with historical context, and we need, and by we I mean us, not the experts, but us, to understand what is at stake. So I'm going to end the conversation for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.